Hi there, and welcome back to rLounge for part 1 of a 2-part series. Being a mother isn't easy, but it takes a lot of effort to be a bad one. Sometimes your mother is the worst person in your life, and sometimes that means letting her get arrested and then never speaking to her again. It's not always mommy dearest, sometimes it's mommy monster. My mother is psycho and entitled. Some backstory. My mother and I have never gotten along. Ever since I was little, she has gone out of her way to be very toxic, controlling, and overbearing over every aspect of my life while giving my siblings more freedom. This amped up when my kid was born. Me, B, my kid, EM, entitled mom. Like I said in my backstory, entitled mom and I have never gotten along. She liked controlling my money, my personal life. It was awful. The fights alone were good enough to be on television as one of those reality TV shows. I had lost good relationships with boys, even friends, because of her. After the baby was born, her controlling ways got even worse. She butt in on my parenting, essentially taking over as baby's primary caregiver and decision maker. She told me that because I lived in her house, it was her right as the grandmother to do whatever she liked, and if I didn't like it, I could sign off my rights to baby and leave. Of course, I refused to do this and stayed because I wouldn't abandon my little baby. I will admit that I wasn't in the best financial position when I had my baby. The baby's father and I had broken up and forced me to move back home with entitled mom. I hated it. Over the next couple of years, I let entitled mom have her way, all the while working my butt off at the night job and was saving money. She stole the money I had saved up more than once, so I was forced to get a bank account. I was fine with paper checks and cashing them at our local check cashing place up until that point, but because she kept stealing, claiming the money was her money, I had to get creative with where I had my cash until I got the bank account. Because it was a bank-issued debit card, it requires a PIN to purchase things. I, of course, came up with a special PIN number that she would never guess. One night, I'm cooking dinner for my son and I, and entitled mom bursts in demanding to know where my money is. I tell her that I had set up a bank account for myself. She flipped out. She demanded to know the PIN to my debit card so she could take out the money, and I gave her a big, fat no. She screamed at me for being selfish and that she deserves the money more than me because me and baby live in her house, and if I wouldn't give up the PIN, that she would cut the card up into ribbons so neither of us could have it. By this point, on the advice of a friend, I had begun recording entitled mom whenever she began to misbehave for any reason. After telling entitled mom I wouldn't give up the PIN, she grabbed the scissors and chopped my debit card into tiny pieces. I knew I could just go take out cash if I needed to, and I had discovered a convenient hiding place where I had been stashing my cash, so I wasn't worried. I requested a new card the next day and went about my business. Sometime later, when I had saved enough, I began looking into apartments. I found one close to work, and there was a daycare center a few blocks away, which would be perfect for baby and I. I got a friend to go with me, and after a bit of talking with my new landlord, I signed the lease, paid the first 3 months of rent off, and got the keys. I was stoked, to say the least. I went to entitled mom's house and began packing right away. She barged into my room without even knocking and asked just what the hell I was doing. Of course, I picked up my phone and began recording right away. I told her that me and baby were moving out. Without any hesitation, she began screaming, demanding to know where I was taking her kid. I refused to tell her. So what does entitled mom do? She calls the police. The police arrive, and before I had the chance to explain the situation, entitled mom begins ranting and raving that I am kidnapping her child. Her child! The officer looks at me with suspicion, but then relaxes when I tell him that baby is my kid and that we are moving out. Entitled mom flips out even more, demanding the officer to arrest me and force me to sign over my parental rights to her and to interrogate me into giving up my bank details. The officer sighed. The kind of sigh, why the hell was I even called out to this situation? He told my mother that he could not arrest me for moving out because I'm an adult and baby is my child, and he couldn't force me to sign over my parental rights, nor could he force me to give up my bank information. He then told her to, if she wanted to go for grandparents' rights. She most certainly could, but given how unhinged she is, just because I am moving out, it doesn't seem like she is within the right frame of mind to be anywhere near any child, let alone her own grandchild. This did not go over well at all. As the officer was leaving and I was in the process of packing up some of baby's things, entitled mom lunged at me and began scratching at my face. I naturally defended myself and shoved her away from me. She screamed at the officer to arrest me for assaulting her. The officer sighed, again, and said he had seen her lunge at me first, and me shoving her was me defending myself. He then added that someone would be going to jail tonight and told her to put her hands behind her back. I never felt so grateful for the police in my life. I will add with a part 2. A Polly Miss DIL from the community says, "Thank God you had cops as witnesses. Good luck, now you're out of Psycho House." What the hell? The police officer was right. She's absolutely unhinged. That's terrifying. I'm so sorry you had to grow up with someone so incredibly abusive towards you, and then to have your son be exposed to that toxicity is even worse. She's the worst thing that could ever happen to him. Good on you for sticking up for yourself. I'm shocked you put up with her for as long as you did. Sometimes, like you said, we have no choice, but I'm glad that things finally worked out and you were able to get up and leave. Part 2. My mother is psycho and entitled. First off, thank you to the supportive comments from Part 1. Secondly, Part 2 is a doozy, so strap in and enjoy the crazy train ride. Again, me, B equals my kid, EM is entitled mother. While entitled mother was being carted off to jail for a nice, relaxing cool down and lockup for the evening, I took the opportunity to pack up everything I could within the time I had. My siblings were understandably upset entitled mom had been arrested, but after explaining the situation, they didn't really try to stop me either. I secured a moving van and packed up everything and went to my new apartment with baby. A friend helped me unpack some basic things, helped me set up baby's bed, and we got Chinese food. The feeling of relief swept over me like a tidal wave. After years of abuse, stealing, and being controlled and being stolen from, I was free. I don't think I ever cried so hard. I'm still in therapy. Eventually, I was unable to continue working nights because finding childcare at those hours was impossible, and almost everyone in my family had disowned me for hurting entitled mom. I found a job that paid close to $3,000 a month, and it was above my skill level, but thankfully it had a full training program and I was able to afford the daycare close by, and still make enough to pay the bills and have a little extra for saving and fun things for me and B to do on the weekends. While I was glad to get away from entitled mom, baby would often say he missed her and how much he liked the presents she gave him. While I didn't let baby go without, he certainly wasn't getting as much as he did before. Of course, I didn't want to shatter his view of his grandmother and break his little heart, but I didn't want to lie to him either. I told him that entitled mom was no longer in our lives because she treated me very poorly and had gotten to the point where I couldn't handle it anymore. Baby is now 7. He understands when adults are being mean to each other. He knows entitled mom was mean to me, but he did like that she was nice to him. He's a kid, so I won't hold that against him, even if it makes me grumble a little. Fast forward a year. I had made our apartment into a home. Baby's bedroom was stocked full of toys, clothes, a bed, books, and the fridge was always full. On my income, I was able to buy myself the queen bed of my dreams. I afforded us a comfortable life. While we weren't rich, we had enough money to live, and having financial stability was something I never thought I would have under entitled mom's control. I had even started seeing a very awesome guy I had met at a luncheon my boss was throwing. We hit it off immediately, and baby absolutely adores him. After having no contact with entitled mom for the year, I was surprised to see I had a message over Facebook from one of my siblings. They asked me if I'd be willing to talk to entitled mom and try mending the rift because she missed baby and wanted to mend our broken family for baby's sake. I didn't want to. I felt like this was some ploy to get her claws into baby and hurt me again. Just looking at the message made me have a PTSD episode. I was scared. Very scared. After my boyfriend helped to calm me down and told me that talking to my therapist might help, I called her and set up an emergency appointment. My therapist told me that entitled mom reaching out might be sincere and the most that will happen is the visit going bad and I go back to no contact again. I wasn't worried about there being an argument. I was worried entitled mom might steal or worse kidnap baby if I turned my back. My paranoia was all over the place. After thinking it over for a while, I decided not to let fear control me. I messaged my sibling back and we had made plans to meet up in a public place for lunch. I agreed to bring baby with me, but I made the condition that my boyfriend would join us as well. My sibling wasn't happy with this, but hesitantly agreed. Red flag number 1. As the day of the lunch approached, entitled mom sent a message to me on Facebook saying how much she missed baby and that she had loads of presents for him. I said I am sure he will be very grateful for the gifts, and entitled mom said she had one for me too. To avoid an argument, I thanked her and told her I would see her at the lunch. She assured me I would be shocked when I opened my present with a devil grin emoji. Red flag number 2. On the day of the lunch, my anxiety was shooting through the roof. I kept changing my mind, but my boyfriend assured me that he would be there for me every step of the way, and if I was uncomfortable and wanted to leave, we would grab baby and get the F out of there. After some more freaking out, we got into the car and arrived at the restaurant. My boyfriend was kind enough to offer to pay for everyone's lunch, and entitled mom took full advantage, ordering the most expensive thing on the menu, including an expensive cocktail and even an extra dish to take home for later. I was understandably annoyed at this, but my boyfriend simply smiled and said whatever entitled mom wanted. After we ate, baby and entitled mom hugged, and baby opened all the gifts she had gotten for him. He was super happy and excited to take everything home to play with them, but entitled mom stopped him and said that the toys would be for her house and that baby was welcome to come play with them whenever he wanted. I nearly spat out my drink. This got entitled mom's attention, and she smiled at me. That smile was faker than fake, and said she wanted to hand deliver my gift in person. She handed me a large brown envelope. I almost didn't want to take it. Worried she had put anthrax or something in it, but I took it and opened it. She was petitioning the court for grandparents' rights. I immediately exploded, standing and throwing the papers at her, shouting at her that she will never get her hands on baby, and she would over my dead and rotting corpse. I grabbed baby, my boyfriend and we immediately left. Baby was sad he couldn't keep the gifts, but I promised to buy all of them for him myself, and we didn't need entitled mom in our lives. I felt humiliated and tricked. The only good thing to come out of this horrible episode is that they were left with the bill. There is more, so an update is coming. Queen Schnugelberry from the audience says, I imagine with the police report of her episode on file, there's no way she will succeed in her quest. I hope you manage to get a restraining order against her. Oh man, I wish we would follow our guts more when it comes to things like this. You were absolutely right to be anxious and cautious about it. Clearly your instincts were trying to warn you about her. She's a cruel and evil person. I'm honestly not shocked that she did this to you, and shame on your siblings for even encouraging this, and your therapist. I'd consider getting a new therapist. Thank God you had your boyfriend with you, and thank God you have recordings of her behavior towards you. I hope you kept all of that, OP. Would you have gone to meet up? On to the next part. In the last entry, entitled mom was petitioning for grandparents' rights. I had never been involved with the courts before. I was pretty freaked out, not to mention terrified of the lies entitled mom might tell them about me. After some talk with my boyfriend and therapist, they urged me to hire an attorney. I found a fantastic family law attorney who was incredibly kind, but very direct and didn't BS me. I still had flash drives of recordings of the times my mother abused me, a lot of the arguments we had, but my attorney dashed any hope of using them. Audio recordings weren't admissible unless both parties agreed to be recorded. I almost gave up the hope on the spot, but he assured me that my entitled mom's previous arrest and the testimony of the officer who had arrested her that night I moved out, plus my boyfriend's witness statement and the fact that entitled mom hadn't seen baby in over a year, was more than enough for a judge to deny entitled mom of any grandparent rights. At the hearing, in classic Karen form, entitled mom plays the victim, stating that I was the aggressor the night I moved out, that I smoked weed around baby and I was a prostitute who brought strange men into her home and slept with them in front of baby. She kept up with so many lies during the hearing that I swear crap was about to start spewing from the browns of her eyes. She even went so far as to accuse my boyfriend of molesting baby. The judge then asked if she had any proof of these claims, and she looked at me with that fake motherly tone, saying she didn't want to ruin her precious daughter's life, but this whole thing has forced her hand, and she is looking out for her grandchild's best interest. I couldn't contain the snort that I audibly let out. After my siblings testified, they merely repeated the lies but couldn't provide any proof. The judge dismissed her testimony as hearsay, but did order me to undergo a drug test. When it was my turn to testify, I detailed the years of abuse and theft. I told the judge about the money that entitled mom had stolen from me many times, and the time she cut up my debit card because I wouldn't give her my PIN number. I even reiterated about how she demanded the cop arrest me and forced me to give up my bank details. When I stepped down from the stand, the officer was called in to testify. Entitled mom turned white as a ghost. The officer corroborated my story. Entitled mom began shouting at the officer, calling him a liar, but the judge had the police report in front of him. He warned entitled mom he would hold her in contempt of court if she continued with her outburst. My therapist and my boyfriend also testified. The judge denied entitled mom's petition for grandparents' rights. He even said he believed she was in deep need of counseling and that she displays instability to the point it is disturbing. Entitled mom was shaking with rage. She held her composure, shockingly, and just walked out of the courtroom, glaring at me as she passed by. Outside of the courtroom, I told my siblings that I will never let entitled mom into my life or baby's life after this, and if they continue to side with her, they too will have to accept that I will have no contact with them. My boyfriend, who I married, and I agreed to try putting entitled mom and that side of the family behind us. Because I had no family who cared, our wedding was small with only his side in attendance. I didn't mind. His family had welcomed baby and I openly and accepted us. We moved into a larger home with just a few miles away from my old one and agreed we wanted to start a family together and give B a little sibling. If there is one thing that helped me get through the years of torture, it was being a mom, and I'm dang good at it. Husband even legally adopted baby to claim as his own. You'd think this would be a happy ending, but nope. The witch is like herpes. She keeps coming back. An update coming soon. V-Buns in the community says, I admire your resilience. And even though the path you are walking isn't easy, based on your tone and the strength of your conviction, I know you can do it. Yeah, I definitely saw that coming. There was no easy way your mother was going to win that one. She picked the wrong fight here. She was definitely just looking to stir the pot and scare you. I can't believe she even thought she had a chance. Next update. I know this is a novel, but I'm actually glad to be doing this. It's cathartic in a way. You may notice this all takes place over the course of many years. Just wanted to clarify, it didn't all happen at once. This is an accumulation of instances where my entitled mother was toxic and dangerous. Thanks for listening, and it means a lot. My boyfriend had proposed and we got married in a small courthouse wedding with his parents and siblings in attendance. It wasn't the big massive wedding of my dreams, but we spent the money on our honeymoon, which was fantastic. Fast forward 2 years. I am still in therapy and it helps to have a husband I can turn to when I am feeling stressed or my PTSD starts to flare up, as I call it, but I start to notice he is being distant towards me. To make a long story short, he had been cheating on me for well over a year with a coworker. I was able to move baby and I back to our old apartment complex. It wasn't the same apartment, but the transition was pretty easy, and I had enough vacation time at work to take a few days off to get everything sorted out. Ex-husband and I divorced, but agreed to stay amicable for baby's sake. A few months go by, and I was starting to get over the divorce. Baby and I were spending more time together, and I was supporting him through his favorite thing at that time, Little League. He tried out for the school team and got picked right away. I was so proud of him. It was better than him being obsessed with video games. After a little time, I get a Facebook message from one of my siblings again. Therapy had been so great with helping me overcome these emotions, so I didn't react as badly as I had before. They wanted me to forgive entitled mom for how she acted and that she was deeply sorry for it and truly wanted to mend the rift. If she was so sorry, why didn't she message me herself? She has my Facebook. I asked my sibling why now, and they said because the divorce, it isn't right that I'm alone now. I hadn't told anyone in my family about my divorce. I'm pretty much no contact with all of them. I'm guessing word just spread around about it. I told my sibling that I was fine, and I still didn't want any contact with entitled mother after she lied about me to a judge. Sibling said entitled mother had been in therapy and realized that she was wrong and thought if she messaged me herself, she would just get blocked and ignored. Hearing that entitled mom was seeing a therapist actually made me happy. Maybe now entitled mom could see that her abuse and torturing me was toxic and that it destroyed our relationship. Because I'm an absolute effing idiot, I asked my sibling if she could watch my apartment while B and I take a short but much needed vacation with some friends. I would only be gone for the weekend, as we were going to the spa. I also asked sibling not to tell entitled mother my address, just a measure of safety. I asked my ex-husband to check on my apartment from time to time over the weekend. I thought this would give baby the chance to get to know their family a little, and I would get a nice, quiet 2 days of pampering. I drive to the spa, and I'm there not even 3 hours before I get a frantic call from ex-husband. My apartment was trashed, the walls smeared with dog feces, and the police are there looking for me. Of course, I'm panicking at this point, and I had to drive the hour-long trip back home, terrified of what I'm about to walk into. When I get there, I am arrested on the spot for drug possession, child neglect, and child endangerment. I am absolutely 100% shocked by this. I don't do drugs. I don't even smoke weed. I have a couple drinks on occasion, but other than that, I'm pretty much a square. I'm hauled down to the police station and interrogated at length about the accusations being labeled against me. Entitled mother had made a call to them after seeing her grandson covered in bruises and dog feces. We don't even own a dog. After the police searched my trashed apartment, they found the drugs sitting on my kitchen counter. Upon hearing that it was entitled mother that called the police on me, my PTSD flared up and I began to have the most severe anxiety attack that I ever had and had to be admitted to the hospital for a psych evaluation. I don't even remember much of it because I apparently had fainted many times from the high amounts of stress. The on-call therapist told me I was screaming, "Why is she doing this to me?" and that I wanted to die. After 3 days of being on medication that made me into a literal zombie, the police came back to talk to me again. He told me that entitled mother refused to admit baby to the hospital for an examination, stating that she knows he has bruises because she saw them and didn't need a doctor to tell her that her baby was abused. Ex-husband, being the godsend that he is, asked the police to take baby from entitled mother's custody, and after an extensive examination, baby had no bruises, other than the scrapes he got from Little League. He told the officer that entitled mother had told him that she was going to be his mother now. He made sure to drive home the point that entitled mother was scary and he was afraid she may hurt him if he tried to escape. Both my siblings were questioned and to save their own skins admitted that entitled mother told them to wait until I wasn't home and baby was with them so she and my other sibling could go and trash my apartment and plant the drugs. Entitled mother denied this, but the evidence and all of the instances where she showed her clear mental instability, she was arrested on charges of domestic abuse, theft, destruction of property, lying to police, and the worst of all, kidnapping. My siblings were also charged. I also found out that entitled mother being in therapy was a lie and that entitled mother had no intention of changing and was merely biding her time. I have since been granted a permanent restraining order against entitled mother and my siblings, and they are in no way to contact me, and if any other relatives tries to contact me on their behalf, that would be a violation and they would be charged even more. I will be in therapy for probably the rest of my life at this point, and baby has begun seeing the same therapist. My ex-husband and I are working through our own issues. Knowing that entitled mother would get out of prison at some point, we are considering moving out of state. Quick edit in case anyone's wondering. My boss has been the best. He paid for a professional cleaning crew to clean up my apartment and replace my living room television. Baby is happy about that. I'm sure some might be wondering why I still have anything to do with my ex-husband. We are working through those issues with therapy, and there's a lot of trust to build back up, but we love one another and are committed to being good for each other as well as baby. There are boundaries that we set for one another, and he even pays child support to help with baby and is even taking him to ball games, and the two of them are incredibly close. Baby already lost his birth father. I don't want him losing his stepfather too. It's what works for us, and someday I know we'll all be just fine. For now, we are happy with a no-commitment friendship while we go through counseling. Baby is in therapy as well, and it helps him a lot to cope with the loss of his birth father and going through the traumatic experience his grandmother had put him through. I'm now talking with a cousin who knows how crazy my mother is, and after I moved out all of those years ago was ranting about how she could make me suffer for taking baby away from her and losing out on all that money. Greed and mental illness do not mix. Second edit. I wanted to quickly add this because I realized I had glazed over some things. My mother and siblings were all sentenced to jail for their role in destroying my apartment and attempting to frame me, not to mention kidnapping baby. Sister got 5 years, my brother got 8, and my mother got 15 years. I wasn't present for the sentencing portion, but I did receive copies of each of their sentences. My mother was ordered to undergo a psych evaluation. It's been a few days since I posted, and a lot of people are suggesting we move out of state. We are considering it. Both X and I are able to transfer, but I am worried about tugging B away from the family he has here. My ex-husband's family, I mean. I have no contact with my mother's family. And X doesn't want to move. He thinks that moving means they have won and that they scared us off. I tell them it's a matter of safety, not pride, and he gets that. We're still discussing it whenever B isn't in the room. We have already settled on a location if we decide to move. It would be a big change from our lives here, but it would definitely be a nice change. Another thing that is stopping us is our relationship. We aren't married anymore and currently don't live together. X says in order for things to work, we would need to get married again, or at least move in together. I'm currently thinking about it, but I'm leaning toward moving baby and I back in with him. At least to get away from my old apartment because some of my mother's relatives know where it is. It's a lot to think about, but I am discussing it with my therapist as well. She thinks moving would be good for us. The community has a couple things to say. Cami Faye says, do it. Get far, far, far away from that crazy witch. OP says, we are definitely considering it. Considering how crazy she is, I doubt a piece of paper is enough to make her stay away. CJ Sin TX says, I'd even look into changing your name. Some states have that as an option for free for victims. It would be worth looking into. Even if it costs, I'd totally change your last names and move far away. Or move first, sign a short-term lease, then change your names and move again. Why? Because sometimes you have to post in the newspaper that you're changing your name, so check on that. Get a P.O. box for mail so no one has your address. I'd also cut any ties with anyone who knows them at all. Change all your social media to a nickname and invite a select few, or just don't be online at all. Including your son with school and baseball, make sure you fill out the forms for no pics or names on the internet, at least until you change them. The OP replies, the thought crossed my mind definitely, but we haven't decided fully on if we want to leave the state or not. We're definitely going to move to another place for sure though. I'm looking at places now. Jesus Christ. I mean, you really shouldn't have trusted your family. It sucks that you had to learn the hard way. I'm so sorry you've had to go through all of this, OP, especially being cheated on. You've taken a lot of hits, but you've managed to stay cool and level-headed about everything. You've definitely come out on top. My advice would be to strongly consider never having anything to do with your family ever again. Trust your gut. You're a strong, independent woman. You know exactly what to do. You've literally come so far and you built a great life for yourself. Stay in power. Do not let people penetrate your fortress. What do you make of all this? As always, thank you for joining us today. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to say regarding today's content, share that with us in the comments below. Stay tuned for part 2 of the part 2 series. See you soon!